Uh, it's Wednesday, April 15th, and this is the Daily Sigh, y'all. I normally go live at 6 p.m. Eastern, but today was special. Today was I was at the Driven Mastermind, greatest mastermind in the whole wide world. A group of misfit millionaires get together and talk about what's working, what's not, what to do, how to do it, etc. And we're obnoxious enough to call ourselves the misfit millionaires because we're egoic and we crave validation. Um, my name is Kasim. If you don't know who I am, I'm a welfare baby turned self-made multimillionaire, which I like to remind people of often because there's a great big money-shaped hole in my heart um, that I keep trying to fill. And I go live every single day. Generally, I go live at 6 p.m. Eastern, but I had to modify it today for my mastermind. To the very best of my ability, I give you everything that I can that matters in the world of business, AI, markets, platforms, and policies. And then I bring a council of some of the smartest folks I know to get together and just talk about what to do, what is actionable right now. So, the news for today from AI Automation Society, who I actually found through folks on the council, the Superpowers plugin 10x's Claude Code. Most users burn expensive tokens on revisions because Claude jumps straight to coding. This free plugin enforces a disciplined planning sequence that cuts token spend by 14% in complex tasks while producing cleaner output. The plugin is actually called Superpowers, by the way. If you want to go play with this, play with this. It's super cool. From eFinancial Careers, Citi's AI productivity boom is an extinction event for contractors. Citi, I think meaning Citibank, is using AI to replace high-skill contractor roles. If your business model relies on selling personal hours for knowledge work or human process knowledge, you are now competing against a tool that is faster, cheaper, and always on. This is the Great Divergence, is what they're calling it. Which sounds a lot better than Armageddon. Hey Jen. Hey Jen drops Avatar V. I think that probably means Avatar 5. The death of identity drift. You can now generate a studio quality digital twin from a 15-second phone recording. Wow. That's super cool. I'm going to go play with that and make a note for myself real quick while I'm thinking about it. This eliminates the uncanny valley and the identity drift issues that made previous AI avatars unusable. Uh, for high-end brand content. Let's see if it actually works. To be honest with you, if it works, it's just the beginning of the end of video because we're just going to carpet bomb the airwaves with video marketers, ruin everything. From The Conversation, AI exposed industries are seeing job and wage growth. Contrary to the doom narrative, thank God, sectors with the highest AI exposure are actually seeing hiring and wage increases. The market is rewarding adaptation. AI isn't a uniform destroyer, it's a reallocator of value. Horse shit. That's so stupid. It's like the Mercury, or no, the Mercury, the meteor that hit the Earth and killed all the dinosaurs also happened to just create something of like a Mount Areopagus where some of the dinosaurs survived. That's all that is. It's the exception that proves the rule. TechCrunch says OpenAI acquires finance startup Hiro. I don't know how to say this. Hiro. OpenAI is moving into specific vertical tasks. No, they're not. They have been doing this for quite some time. By absorbing personal finance tools, they're signaling that thin AI wrappers or single feature apps are in crosshairs of the platform. Y'all, that's always going to be true. If you just, here's the thing is if you provide any specific service, that service is 100% going to become native to an AI platform, one of the major ones. They're going to eat everybody's lunch. From Benzinga, Perplexity calls Google search primitive. That's funny. From Let's Data Science, Microsoft business model shift for AI. Didn't know Microsoft had a business model. From Startup Daily, quantum computing threats to encryption. That's scary. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. From, again, the information. That's the second time this little news or companies come up. Anthropic preps Claude Opus 4.7. Let's see if they actually give it to us. From the IRS.gov, we are the Antichrist, and also IRS proposed digital asset reporting. The IRS really is just the group of the worst humans in the world. From X, Tesla, Semi, and Optimus production updates. Okay. And from Ali Watch, SBIR Strategic Breakthrough Awards, a new $30 million funding pathway bridges the gap for tech founders who can secure matching private capital. This is a massive non-dilutive funding opportunity for founders with high R&D intensity. Wonder what that really means. And that's it. And now it's time for our favorite part of the day, where I turn it over to some of the smartest people in the whole wide world, the Council of the Daily Sigh. I see a lot of our usual suspects here. I see some beautiful faces. Dylan Fetch, Jacob, Jason, Brandon, Katie. Hey, Katie. I'm so glad you're here. This is a transition. You decided to come hang out in the Daily Sigh. Thanks for being here. Can you tell everybody who you are and why you're here?
Well, I'm Katie, as Kasim said, and I just saw the chats in the WhatsApp and thought, hey, I have time. I'll hop on. So
Hey.
that's why I'm
Yeah,
here.
I'm so glad you did. Katie came to my event in Austin on Friday. Although that's not where we met. Where did we meet?
With Ryan and Perry,
Oh God, that was a long time ago then.
Ryan days. Yeah,
Um, yeah. Well,
that's
I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being here. We got Clinton, Elliot, Jason, or Hassan, as he likes to be called, Deborah. Deborah, I'm so glad you're here. And y'all, I just had a day, man. I'm in Nolens, just how you say it. And I'm at the Driven Mastermind, and we just did we did a session called Unplugged, where we turn off all the microphones and all the cameras, and we spend the last hour of the mastermind talking about things that you can't record. It's a very incendiary conversation. And we also drink. So I'm a little drunk. I've had 3 beers. I like amber lagers, I found out. I like anything that tastes like autumn. So like I'm like the pumpkin spice latte of beer drinkers. That's who I am, just in case y'all were wondering.
I
The
would.
least masculine drinker in the world. Uh, yeah, he did promise to be tipsy. So here I am, 3 beers into it, which is my absolute max. And but I didn't want to leave you all hanging. I'm so sorry that I'm late. How did I do on the news? Did I miss anything? Is there anything that happened today that didn't make it through my little AI filter that we need to tell the world about? Dylan.
Yeah, I think this is pretty significant. I'll put the link in the chat and the required notebook. So Harvard Business Review did a study spanning a number of different models, giving them a number of different prompts, and they all converged on giving the same advice. Uh, they then like took GPT because it's the most popular one to try to determine if it was like a lack okay, sorry. A lack of prompting. And so they gave GPT 15,000 prompts with different amounts of context,
Mm.
saying they were in different industries, giving it different roles, all kinds of different things, and they always converged on the same advice in particular categories. So I suggest reading it carefully, especially if you're skeptical. There's nuance to it, and then it tells you how you can avoid these biases. Um, with the primary one being, don't have it make decisions for you. Have it augment your decisions or expand your options. Um, it also, if given the opportunity, will tell you to do two conflicting strategies at the same time. Like it will do its best to. So the gist of it is it's trained on every LinkedIn post you've ever read, and it wants to give you a palatable answer, not necessarily actually like look through all of the information and give you the best option. It gives you the most socially acceptable answer.
That's interesting. And it also speaks to my favorite soapbox in the whole wide world. Do y'all mind actually? I'm just going to be super selfish. Would you mind if I posit my newest and most favoritist thesis? And then I would love for the council to beat me up. I really would, by the way. I'd love for y'all to just beat me to death and tell me where I'm stupid and where my blind spots are and what I'm not thinking about and what I can do better. I'm going to share a document. I'll share it both with the council, and then I'll also share my screen. But I'm not going to share my link with you if you're watching live. If you're watching live, what I'm going to ask of you is you can always join us here at the council. You can go to dailysigh.ai. That will give you the opportunity to join my free forever community where you can join the Zoom room, which is linked to from the calendar. Or if you'd like to get all of this summarized, you can also go to dailysigh.ai, where we will send you a daily and or weekly summary. It's entirely up to you. But for the council, let me open this document up. And Dylan just said something that I actually think is maybe the most important thing for us to talk about from an AI-driven perspective as it pertains to the AI world. And let me make sure that I don't have anything up on my screen that will embarrass me because I watch very eclectic pornography. Just kidding. Um, I told you I was a little drunk. Okay. Just let's be on the same page here. So here's the thesis. The thesis is, and I talk about first principles all the time because I'm obsessed with them. I'm gonna give y'all this document. I already did, didn't I? Man, God bless all of us. I'm gonna do my best today. So what you're looking at here is the master SOP. Katie knows this because she came to my event on Friday. Um, this starts with a system audit. This is very raw. So this is AI telling me all the places that I'm wrong and my thesis is flawed. That's step one, and then step two is more or less the thesis that I worked out with AI. Here's the basic workflow, which we'll get to. That's probably where we'll start. All of the resources, an explanation of what it is that I believe, which is humans and AI are analogical thinkers. And analogical thinking is just comparative thinking. So it's if this is true, then that is true. And you'll see this reflected across every manifestation of AI. And this is hyper relevant because analogical thinking is actually massively flawed. Axiomatic thinking is what you'd expect out of a computer. And honestly, what I think most people, and I mean 99.9999% of all people assume they're getting. People assume they're getting axiomatic thinking and they're not getting axiomatic thinking. They're getting analogical thinking. And you know this because this is how AI is trained. AI is trained with a bunch of images like this is a human, this is a cat, this is a human, this is a cat, this is a human, this is a cat. And over time, AI was able to figure out this is a human and this is a cat, but it didn't really tell us how or why. We still don't know exactly how it did that pattern matching. That's analogical thinking. Axiomatic thinking is thinking from root cause, or another way to say that is from first principles. So the thesis that I have is this: you teach AI your first principles. And if we're going to go down that route from a philosophical perspective, first principles require subjectivity. There's no such thing as objective first principles because there's no such thing as an objective universe. The universe only exists because it's being observed. And so you have to root the information. And that root, by the way, is you. And so what I teach people to do is create their worldview, their identity, and their constraints. Those are three documents or one document with three pieces of information. And then you teach AI your worldview, identity, and constraints. And instantly you're better off than 99% of the rest of humanity will be across 99% of the rest of the prompts. Your output instantly gets better. It takes about 90 minutes to do each of these. So it's an investment, but it's an investment that I think is worth it. Once you've done that, then you identify the first principles as it relates to any project or goal that you possibly have. So you identify the project context, which is just, my business is in North America. I deal with English speakers. I'm trying to make money in the USD, etc. Like basic project context, what it is you're trying to do. I want to be nerd famous. I'd like 1 billion followers across every channel. That's my goal. You decompose the goal into the relevant first principles architecture. You select which dimensions are most important from a lens perspective. And you do that by deciding how is it that I should look at this. So for instance, if you're trying to identify first principles thinking in playing chess. So I'm playing chess with you right now, and I want to figure out from a first principles perspective, how do I win at chess? You wouldn't want a physical lens because if I'm playing chess, the physical lens would look at the subatomic architecture of the chessboard. It's a wooden board and it's structured in these ways from an anatomical perspective. You'd want to look at it from a strategic perspective, right? And so there's 57 lenses that I've identified with AI, and this is AI identifying, really not me. And it actually got way, way, way more expansive. I spent more time on this particular tab than any other one, by the way. And I think we got to a couple hundred, and I said, okay, this is too far. Let's Pareto distribution. What are the 20% of lenses that do 80% of the work? And there are 57 layers or lenses. There's the meta layers are broken down into four. There's epistemological, and epistemology, by the way, just means how do we know what we know? How do we know this is true? So there's the epistemological layer, teleological layer, boundary layer, and scope layer. Once you've identified which layer, then you look at your explanatory levels: ontological, physical, raw material, biological. And we had an ontological conversation earlier when Alan came to the call and confused the shit out of me. Neuroscientific, cognitive, etc. So, for example, if I want to figure out how to increase the likelihood that people comment on my YouTube videos, the wrong thing to do is, hey, help me create a call to action like Mr. Beast. The right thing to do is to say something like, from a neuroscientist to uh, What is it that catalyzes their action as it relates specifically to sharing information and or commenting on a public forum, which I've done, by the way. I have the first principles document to this, and it's really interesting. You would assume it's community participation. It's not at all. It's the digital equivalent of a dog pissing on a fire hydrant. When people comment on a YouTube video, what they're really doing is they're marking their territory. That's the neuroscientific truth. And there's a bunch of them: cognitive, pedagogical, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you identify the lens, and you're not looking for all 57 lenses. You're looking for the one most applicable lens. And then you conduct your deep research. And then you arbitrate the deep research because you've done it across all of your AI tools. And then you synthesize that arbitration. And then you validate it to make sure that it's actually valid, because these are really important documents that you're going to use for really important things. And then you make sure that you mark what's evergreen and mark what's not. And this is just a little Easter egg that I'll supply. But anyway, if you do all that shit, you move. And I'm so glad Neil's here, because Neil is actually a part of this conversation at Driven. There are two worlds in the space of AI right now. There is most of the rest of the world, which is dealing with this amorphous, disembodied orb of gobbledygook horse shit that is the homogenized content that is the lexicon of information humanity's been able to provide. But the problem with that information is it is disembodied. That's an important note. We've taken everything that people know, but we've removed it from all of the context that matters, and then we've put it in this repository that we can pull from at any time. But when you pull it without what's important. So that's most people. And then there's the people that anchor. And when you anchor and you explain, or you and this is why prompt engineering is so stupid. It's not prompt engineering, right? It's context engineering. But you explain and anchor the context from an epistemological perspective, or an ontological perspective, or a neuroscientific perspective, or choose your dipshit buzzword. You actually teach AI how to think and how to work. And to the point that Dylan just made, if you don't do this, if you don't anchor, you get the same AI slop, the homogenized garbage as everybody else. And we're actually seeing that. You're seeing everything move to the middle of the bell curve, the aggregate average. And so I think that that's the answer. I actually think it's the most important thing for us to do. I think it's the greatest unlock in the world of AI, is first principles thinking. And I keep trying to teach it, and I'm teaching it so poorly. I did a Friday event that was an actual absolute travesty of education. I did such a bad job, and everybody was really kind and very gracious. And I think we all had a good time, and I think people got the value out of it. But I wasn't able to get across what I was trying to explain. And then I taught it again at Driven yesterday. And you want to talk about, it's a room of 100 of the smartest people I know that have all made a ton of money and been super successful. And even then, they were like, "All right, dude, we're barely hanging with you." And it's because I'm not explaining it well. But I know what it is that I'm trying to get across. So I'd love y'all's help. Like, how do I do this? If number one, is the thesis sound? Number two, if it is, how do I explain it better than I'm explaining it? Pausing for input.
Can I give some input? Since
I wish you would, since you
so
and
yeah,
I got cut off earlier.
yeah. So I was in the room when Cosm's trying to teach this, and I have spent a lot of time talking with my AI systems about thinking and about how I'm using AI and different different meta bullshit, right? Um, and I had a hard time following what Cosm was saying, and I agree with it. So. I mean, we have some technical like differences, but but in general, I agree with the ideas. Um, so uh, I don't want to be, proscriptive or anything, but I think there's definitely a uh, to kind of poke the bear a little bit. I think there definitely needs to be some analogy storytelling into
Yeah.
the education portion of it.
Yeah, I tried to explain it like I was in a room with other R&D uh participants, and I need to not do that. And honestly, it's because I don't have an end result. That's really good feedback for me, Neil, though. Thank you. Jason, you got your hand up? You're muted. Is Jason muted? Can anybody else hear him? I thought he was thinking that long about what to say. He was like, it looked like tension. He was like, how do I tell this guy he's so stupid? Still muted. I'm gonna voice you over. So you talk and I'll assume you don't want to do ventriloquy. That's okay. Bro, can y'all everybody look at Jason Croft and the fact that he's got council member on the back of his is that virtual? How did you do that? How's that done, dude?
I've got a 75-inch monitor behind me, so I put up whatever back there. So I've got a
No.
whole virtual. Yeah.
That's so cool. I love that a lot. I'm so glad you did that. I hope other people take note. We should get swag.
Yeah.
Who would wear a bright
Your whole
red
back
hat
wall is a
that
monitor.
said "Make the cat"? I'm just kidding. What did you say, Brandon?
I said your whole back wall is a monitor.
Yeah, is it?
It's
Exactly.
pretty slick.
Yeah, it fills the frame back. Yeah, it's just like right there. Not not too bad. Looks almost real.
great.
It looks like a high-end virtual. Like it doesn't quite look real, but
Bro, I thought it was real.
It
Is
looks
the
very
guitar
natural.
real or is that in the monitor?
yeah, that's all in the monitor. Yeah.
Really? So you don't play guitar, dude? I feel so lied to.
I totally play guitar. Oh man, I was just jamming right
That's
before this
funny.
call.
Deborah says, so Custom, are you saying we need to be sure that what the LLM is giving us, what is true? Yes, but what is true is subjective. And that was the conversation Neil and I kind of went back and forth on. And I don't know that we ever really got to battle that out. I don't believe there's such a thing as objective truth. How could there be? There's not enough thing as objective experience.
I think Matt and I was making that argument more.
Oh,
But
was it Matt? Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that what we need to do is identify what's true for us subjectively and then provide the context with the AI tool. Did you say, Deborah, you said why? Why in
Like,
reference
what
to what?
are you trying to accomplish by these first principles? On the other side of it, what does someone gain from going through those exercises?
Well, so I'll give you the horrible analogy that I've offered, and I did this at Brandon Turner's event, and I shouldn't have done it because these are very, very, very conservative people. Analogical thinking is deeply flawed thinking, and people don't realize how bad analogical thinking is because so far we've been protected by whatever guardrails they have in place. But here's an example of analogical thinking. If I were to tell AI, I want you to take, let's say that AI was robotics catches up and we actually have robots because that helps me put this in a form that matters. And I tell AI, I want you to take my son to school every single day. And your number one prerogative is safety. I want you to keep my son safe as you take him to school every single day. That's the key performance indicator. That's the top of my hierarchy. Analogical thinking says things like, okay, I'm going to drive a Volvo because Volvos are safe. I'm going to make sure he wears a seatbelt because seatbelts are safe. I'm also going to murder everybody else on the road at any time that we're on the road because that's the best and most effective way of keeping him safe. And everybody laughs and says, ah, ha, ha, hyperbole. And no, that is analogical thinking. And if you don't allow for constraints, worldview, like the things that would enable an embodied experience, you end up, and you actually see AI do this on a semi-regular basis with some of the outputs and some of the tasks. And it just feels like, oh, it's not giving me what I want, and we massage it. But when the output is wrong, we're looking at it the wrong way. What you need to really do is go all the way back to the roots. And I think if we can go all the way back to the roots, the other thing that occurs to me is we need to stop playing with these freaking tools from a technical perspective. It's not the technologists that are going to win, it's the philosophers. The technology is already outrunning us. It's like there is a rocket ship moving at the speed of light. And the argument we're all having right now is which one do I get on? It's like, you idiot, get on any one and hold on for dear life. Because there's no way you're ever going to be able to figure out how the rocket ship moving at the speed of light is working, where it's going, the trajectory, how you just need to get on and hold on. And when we finally I like materialize into the promise that AI is offering, which is something like robots that do anything we ask them to do, the people that have the most rooted foundational context are going to be the ones. You think of a James Cameron film where this horribly terrifying alien shows up, or Avatar, or Android or Terminator or whatever, and you have to pump it full of all of your person juice, right? And you have to make it into a person, and you have to give it everything that a person has, which would be what, like love and empathy and thought and foresight, and whoever has the most of that the earliest is going to be the most effective. And the person who's like, write me a script like Alex Hormozy is going to be so far behind that, and that's again from because you're dealing with multiple issues, but two that we've talked about, which is analogical thinking and homogenized content. Analogical thinking and homogenized content, when combined, means I'm going to give you the aggregate average across all human thinking as it relates to anything else that maps to the average. And so it's this amorphous blob, and it continues. It's this repetitive amorphous blob. And what's really weird, and this is another problem that nobody talks about, and I don't know why nobody talks about it. AI is trained on the entire lexicon of human knowledge, which, adjusted for margin of error, is 100% pre-AI. That's fucking nuts, you guys. We're asking AI for advice in a forum that is relying on information that no longer exists. So if you ask AI for anything practical, it'd be like, how do I get my kids to eat vegetables? Or which is one of my favorite examples, by the way. Or how do I, overcome objections in a sales environment? Or how do I do lead generation? All of the advice AI is able to muster comes from content that existed pre-AI. And you think, well, that problem will solve itself. No, it won't. Because AI is producing content that AI is trained on. And it's already a runaway flywheel because AI is eating its own food, and the food is being produced from crops that AI is growing, and then the crops are from seeds that existed pre-AI. So AI is not training itself on post-AI context, nor can it, nor will it. It can't even identify the problem. It doesn't exist within its own scope. And so this is it's a big, and it's so funny. It's one of those problems. It's a forest to the trees thing. Because the output is good enough, it maps, because we're all analogical thinkers too. None of us are axiomatic thinkers. We couldn't afford to be. You would die. So as analogical thinkers, AI says shit like, oh, the atoms are like the universe, because there's a nucleus and electrons and shit, and planets surface the sun. And you're like, yeah, I guess atoms are like the universe, except they're not at all, right? So like when it's trying to explain the, atomic particles and the universe to a Luddite like me with a 10th grade education, and it says, oh, atoms are like the universe, that helps me visualize the way that maybe that electrons rotate around neutrons, until you find out that electrons actually don't exist anywhere at any given time until they're observed. They're a cloud. And now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I actually don't have a frame for that, and that's not the way that the world exists and or interacts, and I just took action on that advice. So this
Awesome.
is joint.
Why is killing everyone on the road analogous thinking rather than axiomatic? And also,
Yeah,
why can't I just say you are Alex Hormozy instead of you are like Alex Hormozy?
well, I think you are Alex Hormozy is a better analogy, right? So now you're getting closer to something like a more effective. But here's the problem: is you are Alex Hormozy. Write me a script with the call to action. Um, the problem with that is, let's say, Dylan, you did that for yourself. You've got a YouTube channel and you want a call to action, and you say you are Alex Hormozy. The issue with it is you're going to read that script and you're not Alex Hormozy. You're not Persian. You don't have a beard. You don't have 4% body fat. You're not shredded. You don't have your shirt off. You haven't made $180 million, right? All that context is hyper, 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 hyper applicable. And Alex Hormozy is able to do the things that Alex Hormozy does because he's Alex Hormozy. You're not Alex Hormozy, you're Dylan Fetch. And you have a whole host of value to you. But if you start reading calls to action written by or for or as Alex Hormozy, that's an analogy that actually doesn't map. It actually doesn't map. That was in order of importance, by the way. That's so funny. And the um, analogical thinking is, let me pull up my slides. Do y'all want to play Death by PowerPoint? Because I actually have a PowerPoint that I
Why
use.
is killing everyone on the road analogous rather than axiomatic? And what would be the axiomatic alternative to get my kids to
Yeah,
school today?
killing everybody on the road that's not the analogy. The analogical thinking would be safety. So it would be, if I need to keep these kids safe, I need to keep them safe across every level of analysis for the entirety of the scope. And safety would mean And this is where the analogy, right? So safety means compliant, so that's seatbelts. Safety means quality premise, so that's the Volvo. Safety means lowest likelihood of impact. And now lowest likelihood of impact means what? It might mean leave earlier. It could mean take a different route. And it could also mean run everybody off the road. That's analogical thinking. Neil, you have your hand up?
Yeah, so I want to make like a meta analogy by telling a story. So
I love
um
stories, dude. Let's do this
yeah,
shit.
everybody does. So Ben Affleck was on the Joe Rogan show I don't know, a couple months ago. And I didn't actually watch the episode or anything, but I saw people clipping it, and apparently he was talking about how AI is a bad storyteller because this whole regression to the mean problem with AI, which is a little bit of what you're talking about. And the commentary online was that, oh, I didn't know Ben Affleck understood AI at this like technical level, and everybody was so impressed. And I heard that, I was like, yeah, that's just user error because you don't know what the hell you're doing. But so I know, and we had this discussion a little bit earlier. But the key problem with what Cosm's calling analogical thinking versus axiomatic is that even after 140-ish years of modern psychology and the thousands of years of religious thinking and all these kinds
Mm,
of things, um, we don't actually understand how we think. Like nobody knows what consciousness is.
yeah, or
We
where it
don't
comes from.
where it comes from. We don't understand what our motivate. We know like some things, right? Some things have borne out in research, but most psychological research is not reproducible. It's a whole other thing. But what what AI or what the training data has created is inferred patterns in written expression, fundamentally, right? I mean, yeah, there's some images too, but fundamentally written expression. And when you divorce that from the human body, what Cosm's calling, embodiment, is like you are losing all of the other things that we don't understand. And
Mm,
so the the output that you get is necessarily, you know, divorced from reality.
disembodied.
It's disembodied. I mean, but
Yep.
literally disembodied because all of the humanness that goes into me coming up with words and then speaking them out of my face is missing. And even though we have all this writing, it doesn't, the writing itself does not reproduce the underlying elements of creating that next word. And so the and so what Qasim's trying to do is trying to explicitly frame problems for a given user with a given end in order to achieve the objective in a logic-based way, to kind of substitute for all that unconscious stuff that happens.
Dude, I need you to follow me around and explain everything I think. That was beautiful. Yes, thank you for that. Would you mind, and Deborah, I see your hand up, but Neil, you had another point at the table that I thought was poignant. You might not want to repeat it because it's interesting, but we mentioned there's maybe 20 motivations. And really there's one. And and it's the propagation of the species,
Yeah.
right? Like that's really, I mean, on an anthropological scale, that's all any of us are concerned with. And you're like, no, I'm more complex. I want contribution and meaning and fulfillment. And it's like, no, you don't. You need your genes to propagate because there's 2 trillion years of evolution in you that forces that thinking. And everything that we sell and everything that we do, every dude that drives a Mercedes has no reason to do that. It's more comfortable in the air conditioning knob. It's like, shut up. It gets you laid, dude. That's why you do that thing. Everything that we do really does come from, and if you're like, oh, I reject that premise, fine. And you're wrong. Everything we do comes from something like the pseudoscientist bullshit. It's the reptilian mind or the mammalian mind or whatever. It's so subconscious. It's all of our action, all of our beliefs, all of our receptivity to anything. And that's why good marketers, they don't talk to you on a level of consciousness. Good marketers talk to you on a very, very, very subconscious level. we need to know and understand how to use AI in that same way. Neil, did I bastardize what you said? What you said was classier.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to get down to it, it comes to Dawkins's selfish gene idea, that, life exists as it is in order to replicate genes. But in the marketing world, it's kind of like you're either selling relationships or money or status, and those are kind of like the three meta markets. But when I
And
look at
money and
that,
status lead to relationships, right? Like
that's
that's,
right.
yeah,
So, you want the money, you want the status so that you
right.
can have the relationship. And that's when you get like down to the root. And this is leaving out, any kind of spiritual stuff because it's very materialistic marketer kind of talk. But yeah, that's the root motivation of
Hmm.
everything. And you can get as many degrees of freedom away from that as you want. But when you trace the path, it all ends up there.
Well, it might be necessary to get those degrees away, depending on, again, the lens, going back to my 57 lenses. It depends on the lens through which we want to view this thing. Deborah.
You can stay with me here. I have two questions. They seem unrelated, but they're related. So my version of your story of shooting everyone on the road is, um, I had a workshop I went through, and they said, okay, tell the LLM that it is this author of this book, and they're an expert in this framework, and then have it ask you some questions. And the questions that it was asking and the way it was guiding me, I went nuts. I was like, okay, stop, time out, just stop, just bring chat back to me, please.
Mm.
Because it was so out of alignment with the way that I've interacted with chat for all the year or so that I've been chatting back and forth. So I'm curious if your document or your first principles would help me if I did the exercises to never have that happen. Like for it to maybe say, well, this frame is out of alignment with your work, Deborah. Am I understanding
Not
that
never.
correctly?
It's like if you've been bowling with little kids and you've put up the bumpers. I'm
Hmm.
not promising it knocks down all the pins, but I do think that this would be really helpful in making sure it doesn't go full on into the gutter. But what I'd love from you, and it would be a gift to me, is if you tried it. Because right now, what I'm telling you is I went through the exercise that I provided, and I dressed it up a lot because I was charging people money to come to my event, so it needed to be pretty. But I've done this, and my first principles documents give me outputs that are better than anything I've ever seen or anything I've ever seen from other people. So I think if you went through a first principles analysis of one problem, I'd love it if you were to do that for me and then come back to me, be like, and my hope is you're like, dude, this is amazing. But you might be like, hey man, you're a dipshit. This didn't work for me at all.
Well, I guess my second question was just, what are you afraid will happen if people don't have these guardrails in place?
It all averages. And that's what's happening now. Like that's what's happening now is AI. It's so funny. It's so stupid. AI is not an unlock. AI is now the minimum. You know what I mean? Like it's table stakes. And if you look at what's happening I'll use marketing again because it's the most accessible. Everybody understands it, and it's also the world that I come from. All marketing copy, I don't know if y'all are noticing this, is starting to look and feel and sound the same. Everybody's everything, everybody's Twitter threads, everybody's Instagram carousels, everybody's YouTube scripts, everybody's calls to action, everybody's landing pages, everybody's everything is starting to land the same. And what's really interesting is, and I'll play death by PowerPoint here again, if y'all don't mind, this is a data-driven truth. What's really interesting about it from a data perspective is here's the slides that I presented yesterday. What's really interesting about this from a data-driven perspective is the data shows us 50%, 15% decrease in lexical diversity. ChatGPT was banned in Milan, and while it was banned, content became 15% more unique. At the same time, there was an increase in engagement. At the same time, over the course of a year, there's 56% rise in AI incidents. This is all AI sourced, by the way. So, we're already back to the using the problem to solve the problem. 74% saturation of content. Ahrefs, this is really, really, really interesting and actually worth digging into the source. Ahrefs studied 1 million new domains and found that 3 out of 4 have detectable AI content, and we know what percentage of AI content is detectable, and it's only going to be a death spiral. So here's the UCLA, which who knows how much we can trust them. The next AI generation would be even more likely to return homogenized outputs, resulting in a death spiral of homogenization. This is interesting. 419,000 academic papers found that content homogeneity keeps climbing even months after AI use stops. We're fundamentally changing the way that people think. And I don't know about y'all, this is absolutely anecdotal. I'm seeing it in the way that people talk and engage. And if you want to know, I'll give you the difference because Dylan asked and I didn't answer it well. The difference between analogical and axiomatic thinking. Here's analogical thinking. So analogical thinking is characterized by negative parallelism, relational mapping, inference, projection, simile, spam, and stakes inflation. This is what I decided, by the way. This isn't true. But negative parallelism is it's not X, it's Y. Who else has seen after ChatGPT runs around saying it's not this, it's that? How many of us, and I don't know, I'm not asking you to raise your hand to pander. Y'all, I hear people saying it now. I hear real humans in real conversations without prompts telling me, well, it's not really this, it's that. They're being trained to think analogically from a mechanism that was trained to think analogically like by people that think analogically. It's insane. It's insanity. It's this horrible feedback loop. Relational mapping. A is like B because the relationships line up. An atom is like a solar system. No, it's not. The brain is like a computer. No, it's not. A supply chain is like a circulatory system. Inference projection, simile spam, stakes inflation. That's analogical thinking, reasoning by resemblance. Axiomatic thinking is mechanism extraction, constraint identification, and variant testing, causal decomposition, and decision rebuild. And again, this is the best I could do with these ideas. This is the best I can do. But those are those two mechanisms. We are analogical thinkers. We took the $1 trillion supercomputers and we taught them to be analogical thinkers. And now they're thinking analogically, and we're assuming axiomatic thinking. And we're taking it as though it's axiomatic thinking. We're acting upon it as though it's axiomatic thinking. How did I do, Deborah? Was that an okay answer?
Yeah, I think my final follow-up is just I would need a cheat sheet as to how to do the exercises to give you the data that you're looking for.
Yeah, I need to go through. I want to try to teach this better and better. I'm getting there. This feels like my favorite soapbox. Jason, you're up. Dylan, you're on deck.
Yeah, so I think Custom, where some of the challenge may be, you do give a brief introduction about the difference between axiomatic and analogical thinking and reasoning, but I think that's still at a higher level with people who are not really firmly rooted in those two concepts. And to be candid with you, I had to go back and reroute myself in it because your examples of it are examples of it that make sense to you, which is correct,
Right.
right?
Bro, that's analogical thinking, right? Like that's yes. Sorry, keep going. You've excited me.
Yeah, right. So, so you're giving an example of this is what's analogical, this is what's axiomatic, but it's from your lens. So the question is, my opinion is it's going to be challenging to advance your hypothesis, your thesis, your strongly held belief, which I'm in agreement with you. It's going to be difficult if people don't have a firm understanding of those two very important concepts in ways that are relatable and understandable to them. They may have failed algebra class, right?
Yeah.
So
You know what I need, dude? I need a prompt that people can load up into their AI that will use the context the AI understands about those people and then gives them examples of analogical thinking from their perspective and using the context AI already has. Because this has come up a couple times. I think it was Neil. Somebody at the beginning of this call said, you need better examples. And examples analogical thinking. We think in it's why story is the most point. Story is older than language. Isn't that insane to think about? Story is the most important human tradition. Story is older than language. Story is analogical thinking. It's how we pass information down. It's how we've survived. We need that, and it's hard. It's so hard. It's the fish. Uh, what's the story? There's a philosopher story about the two fish are talking, and the older fish swims by and says, "How's the water?" And the two little fish look at each other and say, "What's water?" Like that's what we're trying to do right now. Like we're asking, "What's water?" when we're looking at how it is that we're thinking. Dylan, you have your hand up. Jason, Jacob, you're on deck.
Yeah, analogous thinking is how we understand things. But So I have an example that leads to a question. Saw a video. It was Bernie Sanders talking to Claude, and Claude was going hard on how AI companies need to be like regulated. And I was like, man, that's really shocking. I would think it would advocate for
It's because it
itself.
was Bernie's Claude.
And then I thought, well, he doesn't know how to use it. They set it up for him and ran it
Yeah.
and everything. But I thought it doesn't know that's actually Bernie Sanders. And that's how you start. That's how many people start most conversations. You are this, or I am this. And so my question is, are you giving the AI ammo to tell you exactly what you want to hear instead of what I don't want to say what is right because that's a big
Hmm.
whole thing, but what is prudent
Hmm.
maybe? And then also, I think you need to put a scenario on this because how will this help me coding? You know, that
Hmm.
you use it like I mean, most people use AI differently than I do. Well, I don't know. I think everyone uses it in a unique way, but I think you need to ground it in a activity or style of
Hmm.
use in order because like you need to target a person with this. But yeah, I'll leave it there.
Uh, no, no, no. I love that, and that actually really helped me. You really helped me. Um, Hold on. I want to show you a graph. It's Henrik Nieberg, manufacturing image. Hold on. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. So this is because you're right. It's like I'm going to give it context, and in so doing, am I asking for confirmation bias? Basically, am I asking for more sycophantic AI? And the answer might be yes, depending on the context. But this is the example I'll offer you. What I'm telling people is I broke it down into worldview, identity, and constraints. And that actually came from mission, vision, values. I started with mission, vision, values because that's how we think from a business perspective. But then I asked my AI advisors, I'm like, well, what are the first principles of mission, vision, and values? And that was a long conversation. That was hours long. And what we got to were worldview, identity, constraints. Worldview is out, identity is in, and constraints is the box. So when you give AI your worldview, identity, constraints, you might say something like, and here's a very specific example that speaks to me and Neil's thesis, which is everything is the propagation of the species. You might go to AI and say, "Hey, I would like to meet a young lady with whom I might be able to form a relationship. And in order to do that, I'm very awkward. I'm mildly autistic. I'm 41 years old. I'm divorced. And my girlfriend's on this call, by the way. So this isn't actually something that I want to do, but I'm just saying, if I were asking AI for that, remember that AI is an analogical thinker, and without worldview and identity constraints, what it might say is, hey, go read Neil Strauss's The Game. Go use neurolinguistic programming. Here are some, and now what I haven't done is I haven't offered the constraints for me, which would say something like, hey, I feel like that's manipulative. That doesn't honor my personal values and whatever. So that's the idea. Here's the specific example that I wanted to offer you. If you're coding, your worldview, identity, and constraints might look something like this. Here's Henrik Nieberg's This, Not That, which I love, by the way. For anybody trying to build a business, this is the way to begin thinking about it. Most people build a business, most coders, by the way, most developers build a business like the top row. They're like, I want a car, so I'm going to do everything that it takes to build my desired end result. And I'm going to start from the beginning with the end in mind, a la Stephen Covey. And Nieberg's like, no, dude, if you want a car, what's the first principle of the car? It's getting people from A to B. And if this is the business, let's get them from A to B poorly. And then if we can do it poorly and we can prove that, we fashion everything else first, get it, basically work all the other kinks out of the whole rest of the business. Because it's like, hey, I can get you from A to B. And now you're working on things like customer communication, customer service, HR, pricing, distribution, marketing, ops, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it sucks, but it's going to suck no matter what. But now what do I get to do? I get to improve it a little bit. And then it gets a little bit better. And then the whole rest of my business outside of the product gets a little bit better. And then I improve it. And then everything. And because business is iterative, this is the way to do it. Now, you may disagree with this. That's okay. However, if you were to give this context to AI, this is a worldview context, and it's a worldview maybe mixed with some constraints, but it's a worldview context. And then you were to start asking AI questions about coding. How do I build? How do I grow? How do I scale? Hey, here's a problem that I'm running into. There's a particular expansion opportunity. Do I build this foundationally? Do I build it from a modular perspective? And AI has that worldview. I think that your output just got, and I usually use this in a way that's obnoxious because I don't understand math well enough, but I think it just got one standard deviation better. And if we understand standard deviations, one standard deviation better is worlds better, right? Two standard deviations is genius level IQ from the center. And so I think that one application of worldview layer over the AI from a context perspective increased the output by one standard deviation. And that's one point of context. Imagine two. And now it compounds. Imagine 50, dude. And Dylan, here's the thing. Dylan Fetch, and I know you, and I'm not, you're a fucking genius, dude. You're so fun to listen to. You have all these amazing ideas, and you have amazing worldview, amazing identity, amazing constraints, but you haven't loaded them up in your system. And so now you're having this Pavlovian conversations with the system that on a sentence by sentence basis you keep having to calibrate with. What if you took one very big step back and you thought, you know what? Let me give this freaking thing just the nuts and the bolts. And now that Pavlovian conversation, it moves just a little bit faster. You know what I mean? Like that's the thesis anyway. How did that land?
I got to go run through a wall now. I did want to say, so the Agile Manifesto was written in 2001. So if developers are still building like that, they're awful developers.
Dude,
That's
isn't
how
that funny?
that's how
Yeah.
most, like, the bottom is how good good developers work. But yeah, I need to know more about your thing in order to like continue this conversation. The thing I have in my mind is context about me versus context about the problem. And
So
you
context about you is
what you
set
said,
zero.
sorry, let me stop.
Yeah.
The tail end of what you said started to rectify that for me as to
Mm.
why it having, because I was thinking like it doesn't need to know about me, it needs to know about the problem. But what you said makes sense that perhaps knowing
No.
about me can give it um yeah.
Dude, that's the thing that and maybe I need to start this way. Thank you for this conversation. And I'm sorry I interrupted you. This is the part that's really weird. And it gets really religious for me. When you're talking to AI, you are of infinite importance. We look at computers as these sterile things that are giving things back, but they're mirrors. You are of infinite importance. And if we don't acknowledge that importance, we're abdicating the responsibility of our participation with this mechanism. That's why this disembodied intelligence needs a body. That body has to be you. You're the only person that can articulate your objective truth, and there's no such thing as objective truth by virtue of the fact that I use the word your, right? But you're the only person that can plant that flag. So you have to plant it strong and firmly, and then embody you. And that actually makes you hyper relevant. All the people that are disembodied nothings, they're going to be UBI'd. But for the people that are like, no, this is me, this is who I am, people became infinitely important. They've always been infinitely important, but now the articulation of that important just became tangible. And the people that do that with AI, I think we're going to see like massive output, massive output. How is that, Dylan?
Still good, I think.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
I'm
your hand's
super
still up. I didn't
curious.
know if you were
Oh, no,
still.
no, no.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm super curious what Elliot has to say now, but I'm also very curious what Jacob has to say.
All right. Well, I've got three hands up. These will be the last three questions because I'm in New Orleans with the prettiest girl in the world and I want to go out and have fun. And y'all are a very attractive group, but you're not, uh, for whatever reason, moving the needle for me in the same way. Jacob, you're up. Elliot, you're on deck. Clinton, you're last. Everybody, I love you.
Yeah, so I've got my microphone on the speaker, so hopefully you don't get a sound loop. If it does, just let me know. I'll
Sounds
switch
good.
back. Yeah, I noticed this a couple of weeks ago. You mentioned that people are starting to sound more like AI, and I noticed a couple of weeks ago I was talking to you actually on the call, and I was talking to everybody, and I had this idea and I couldn't quite get it out, and I was like, "Hey, Custom, like you know what I'm trying to say," and I was almost like I did it twice. I called myself twice. I was like, "Are you prompting him like he's AI, like like Claude or
Yeah.
ChatGPT?" You know what I'm trying to say? Just help me out here. And it's starting to happen more and more, and I'm seeing this like this safeguard need to kind of come up to where like 100 years ago or 200 years ago, everybody was dangerous, and it's like, who are you and state your business, right? Like,
Mm,
who do you know? Like, I can't trust you. Like, people are really, their guards are up. And the guards have kind of gone down, but I'm seeing the guards kind of need to go up more with the information and what we expose ourselves to because there's just so much. Um, but what I really all I think that your thing needs is just some graphs. I think that it just needs visuals,
Mm,
I think.
good visuals. Yeah.
I think that's really all it is because I was looking at it and I was like, this is a lot of good stuff, but visually it's I guess easier to get the mind primed or something. So I think that's I haven't quite gone through all of it, but yeah, I think visuals would be like the number one thing.
That's super helpful, man. Thank you. It's so funny. My buddy John Davy, who I'm gonna have on the call, by the way. John Davy's done two nine-figure businesses. Him and his wife own RTT.com. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant guy. Today he sat next to me at lunch and I was like, John, what are you up to? What do you want to do? And he goes, I really want to teach. And I was like, well, I've got a group for you to come teach if you want to. But John Davy said the same thing. He's like, you got to draw it. Thank you for that, Jacob. I really appreciate you. Elliot, you're up. Clinton, you're on deck.
Yeah, I just wanted to basically ask what you're talking about at a high level. No, don't worry. I'm just messing with you, but you're saying that the more important context than anything around the current thing that it's trying to solve is the personal context that you you want it to approach the problem from. Is that fundamentally what we're talking about here? Like the first principles of the person using the AI have to be instilled in the LLM that is solving the problem for you in order
Well,
to extrapolate the value from the person.
they already are. So yes, yes, and when you're talking to AI, without even realizing, the confirmation bias is built into your mind and your soul. So if AI gives you something that lives outside of your worldview, identity, or constraints, you're going to dismiss that. So it doesn't make sense for us to say like, oh, I'm an objective human. I want everything. No, you don't. You want something that lives inside your worldview, identity, constraints. You actually do. And if you don't get it, you're gonna view that is, oh, that's objectively wrong. No, it's not. It just exists outside of your worldview, identity, and constraints. So you have to do that, even if your worldview, let's say that there is an objective truth, even if your worldview, identity, constraints are objectively wrong, for the participatory action that is this Pavlovian experience to continue and to increase the efficiency of it, you might as well put those freaking guardrails on because you're not going to play with it until it talks to you the way you want it to talk to you. It's like language. If I speak English and you speak Russian, we're not going to get anywhere until one of us calibrates. So you're just calibrating the AI to talk to you spiritually the way that you need to be spoken to in order for the conversation to continue and be more effective. And that's what we do now. We send out 10 tendrils, we get 10 tendrils back, and we only pick up on the ones that align with our worldview and identity constraints anyway. So you might as well say, "Foom." Now, the key to "foom" is making sure you don't do it stupidly or poorly or ideologically. And I don't know how to do that. I'm figuring that out with all of us as we go.
Thanks. Yeah, that was pretty helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good question, man. Thank you. Clinton, finish us
So
off.
I am getting stuck on the problem of innovation with AI, where we've seen AI play board games in innovative ways,
Mm.
but essentially from the way it's structured, um, it can't really innovate. It can only mix and match how other things have been done before. So at the risk of getting on another soapbox,
My favorite thing to do,
there you
dude.
go.
Why do you think I do these
Oh,
calls? I
yeah,
make,
yeah.
yeah.
So, I think we still need humans in the loop for innovation.
Mhm.
And that's yet another hill I'll die on.
Well, I want to fight you a little bit because
Please do.
and this is there's a point I'm sure where you'll win this argument, and it's a definition of terms issue, which most disagreements are a definition of terms issue. It's just a semantic discussion, but the semantic discussion in this particular instance is innovation. So the word innovation would be something that we would have to in my SOP thesis that I shared with y'all, there's a step called decomposition. And so you would have to, let's say that we created a first principles document as it relates to innovation, and you'd go to AI and you've already done your step zero. So now we're on step one, which is, hey, I want to innovate a new product, new service, new industry, new whatever. And so I'm talking to my AI and I'd say my goal is something to the effect of, I have this particular service and I want to innovate better and more effective services. So then you feed it to AI and you ask, from a first principles perspective, how should I be thinking about innovation in this context? And then AI's going to come back and it's going to say, innovation from a first principles perspective is something like, and this is a creative lens now, right? So we're no longer ontological or pedagogical or neuroscientific. Now this is like something like a purely creative lens or generative lens might be a better term. from a generative perspective, innovation is the identification of uh, connecting dots and or nodes that have yet to connect but naturally connect given either new context or information or existing context and information that up until this point haven't been strengthened in their connection. That might be the first principles explanation of innovation. And let's say for a moment, suspend disbelief and assume you agree with me, and that was poorly done, but that's the best I can do. Then you take the first principles document of innovation, you take your worldview identity constraints, you take the project that you want to accomplish, and you take the first principles documents, which by the way are 40 pages long when you do them right, and you upload it into AI and you say, this is my service and I want to innovate. And bro, I think it's not going to do all of it. It's not going to be Leonardo da Vinci right out of the gate, but bet money it gets close.
You just stole my analogy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have we been training AI to think like Da Vinci?
Dude, I think we've been here's the problem. We've been training AI to think like Roger. And Roger is your dipshit neighbor with a 100 IQ. AI is not a meritocratic environment. AI ate everything that humanity shat out. That's a fact. And it hasn't been hierarchically structured because there's no such thing as hierarchy of thought. As an example, Einstein had a famous quote. It's absolutely brilliant, and you could spend a million years thinking about this statement, and you'd still never get to the bottom of its brilliance. He posits his theory of relativity. 100 scientists write a book refuting the theory, and Einstein goes, if they were right, it would have only taken one. And that's the problem with humanity. So there's no such thing as hierarchical structure. I talk about this all the time. I have mercury poisoning. You walk into any doctor's office and the remediation for mercury poisoning would murder me, would kill me. People dying of cancer, radiation is death. It's an absolute horror show. But in the world of whatever dominance hierarchy we've opted into, the doctors that prescribe radiation or prescribe chelation that's the best content that we have. That's the AI, that's the content that AI would eat up and action on. So we can't have hierarchically structured content because we can't have objective truth. And so what AI is trained on is just everything that we've ever shut out. So now it's up to us to be responsible human beings, stake a claim, step zero, and then move forward from step zero. And it's interesting because it actually requires us being pretty bold and deciding like we're going to decide what is true for us subjectively and to whatever ability objectivity is possible. So that was a good question.
On that note, there's a book called Plato and a Platypus Walk into a Bar.
Yeah, I've got it.
There you go. Yeah. It's turtles all the way down.
Bro, if you go, so first principles thinking came from, Aristotle, and Aristotle was just trying to understand it's SPA. Aristotle was trying to understand Plato. Plato was trying to understand Socrates. Socrates is the most important avatar in human existence. Socrates, I think, actually outweighs Christ in terms of impact specifically on Western culture. Everything that we think, the way that we speak, how we participate with each other, every form of our world is impacted by this one person, and who we don't spend enough time talking about, who also wrote nothing, by the way. There was only things written about him. And he was weird, and I made this joke at the last event, but he was like, if you read about Socrates, he was smelly. He stank. He had body odor. He was homeless. His wife kept kicking him out. His wife was very, very physically abusive to him. They made him kill himself because he was poisoning the youth. Like he was like this hobo, this traveling hobo that might be the most important thinker we've ever had. Anyway, thank you so much for this. Yes, sir.
Carson, I know you got to run. Sorry. Go ahead, Clint.
So some AIs or chatbots will let you give basic instructions on which it operates from there on out. Do you recommend a certain set of instructions that we begin every chat with?
Yeah, so I think if you do the worldview identity constraints, it stops drift. And then the first principles context is only applicable to the project that's being executed on for as long as it's being executed and for as long as you begin to see drift. What I've noticed with my first principles docs is sometimes I have to re-upload them and be like, hey, remember, we're going after, the architecture from an anthropological perspective of persuasion is this. So let's make sure we're sticking to this. And that repetition can be really helpful. Jason?
Yeah, really quickly, I updated that document to speak to the dangers of not challenging the AI, and it's everything that we have been talking about. It nails it right there. So I put it in WhatsApp, and I sent an updated one, and I just invite everybody. It's a quicker read that I think will be a primer before they get into the deeper work of yours.
Love that, man. I appreciate you. And I know you made me a Perplexity bot that does all this, and I just haven't had time to get to it, to be honest with you, but I appreciate that a lot. Y'all, this is great. This was very self-indulgent. I promise not to do this too often, but it was really helpful to inform me. So thank you for taking your time and giving to me today. If you're watching this live, you can always join our council by going to dailysigh.ai. You can subscribe for daily and or weekly updates. If you're in the council, you can get into the private WhatsApp group. I know all y'all are already there, so I won't drop the link. But the private WhatsApp group has been amazing. Like some of what's going on in there blows my mind. I showed my friend the other day. No, it was today. I showed my friend at Driven. I'm like, look what's going on. He's like, dude, how did you do that? I was like, I just invited a bunch of people to have this conversation, and they're teaching me all the best things for me to know, which is super cool. So grateful to all of you. I go live every single day at 6 p.m. Eastern. Today I was a little late. Tomorrow I'll be on time. I'm in New Orleans. Pray that I don't die. And I'm not a good drinker, and I've been drinking, so I'm not a very responsible human, but I'm with responsible